Commissioners, when I spoke on the 5th of March 2025 in Parliament, I made a reference to the experience that I had from 2011. And what I see happening right now, it takes me back to 2011. And that makes me realize that I cannot just sit back and allow the irregularities that were happening in 2011 when I was the acting national commissioner to repeat itself, because it's going to become a culture, it's going to be embedded in how the justice system works in this country. Therefore, the citizens are not going to be safe. I've seen it in 2011 and it's happening again. As I said, Commissioners, when you look at my profile that I presented on the first day, that I joined the top management structure of the South African Police Service in 2011 when I was appointed as an acting national commissioner, appointed by President Zuma at the time. I must indicate that when I was appointed, the person that was the Minister of Police was Minister Mthethwa, Nathi Mthethwa. He was the Minister of Police. At that time when I was appointed, the South African Police Service were always in the media regarding the activities at crime intelligence. Lieutenant General Nhlanhla was in the center of that. So there were two matters that were always in the media. Was about the death of a murder incident that happened in Vosloorus, as well as the corruption within crime intelligence secret fund account. I think that's where the name /fund came from. The secret fund account that I spoke about earlier that must be accounted for the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. It was misused. When I came in, there was already, General Nhlanhla was already suspended. And he was suspended by General Cele at the time. That suspension was regarding the murder incident that happened in Vosloorus. When I came in and I asked the management about the status of the criminal case that I'm told is registered against General Nhlanhla, which involves corruption of crime intelligence secret fund account, I was informed that there was no disciplinary steps initiated yet at the time. So I directed that we must initiate the disciplinary steps against the second charge, which is corruption. I brought General Nhlanhla to brief him about it, and I appointed an investigating team to investigate, and the concluded investigation, we are about to subject General Nhlanhla to a disciplinary hearing. And then General Nhlanhla, to my surprise, then contacts me and he says to me, his criminal case that is going to appear in the Commercial Crime Court in Pretoria is going to be withdrawn the following day. So I was perplexed and I said, but Jared Dramat, as the head of the Hawks, do you know about this? And he said, no, he's not aware. And indeed, Commissioners, when the matter appeared in court, the matter was withdrawn. So I demanded to know the reasons for that. They finished me with a submission that was made by the Deputy National Head of NPA at the time, Advocate Mkhwanazi, where he gave the instruction to Advocate Mzinyati, who was responsible for that case, and Advocate Mzinyati then directed a prosecutor who was working on the docket, Advocate Bredenbach, who's a member of parliament now, to withdraw the case. So the case was withdrawn, simply because of Advocate Mkhwanazi, regardless of evidence. But the reasons Mkhwanazi put on his letter was that the arrest of Nhlanhla, or this case being placed on the roll, it is not the responsibility of the SAPS, but it is the responsibility of the Inspector General of Intelligence. I explained earlier, Commissioners, that crime will happen. If crime happens within the secret fund account, there must be audit, there must be accountability, and then the case must follow, which must be handled with care, but the case will follow. So similar to what is happening now, if there is any corruption within crime intelligence, that matter must be reported to the right structures and cases must follow thereafter. So at the time, the coordination of the information coming from crime intelligence to be given to an investigation team was facilitated by a senior officer within crime intelligence on an arrangement with DPCI. So the investigation was done correctly. But here's a case withdrawn and citing the reason that the Inspector General of Intelligence is the one who's got a jurisdiction on this matter. So I took the case docket from court and I stopped the disciplinary matter. I channeled both of them to the Inspector General of Intelligence. The Inspector General of Intelligence is a late advocate, Hadebe. She worked with an advocate that is currently, well, is not within Inspector General now, but she's practicing. I gave both of them the letters, these cases, departmental and criminal. And I received a response from Advocate Hadebe, the Inspector General, on a disciplinary matter, where he says, charge the CFO, was Major General Lazarus at the time. Charge the CFO and not Mdluli, because it's a CFO that knows how to manage the secret fund account and he used that to benefit Mdluli. Mdluli didn't know anything about it. So Mdluli is clear. So this is in black and white I receive. But I then said, I told Mdluli and the minister at the time that, yeah, the Inspector General is saying this, but I'm not going to implement this because I want a response on the criminal matter. Imagine me uplifting Mdluli's suspension, he comes to work, and the very same Inspector General says I must take the case docket back to court and Mdluli must go and face a criminal case while he's back at work. It's going to look bad for me, not good governance. So I said, I'm going to wait until I get the second response. The second response came on the phone call. Inspector General said, please come, bring that letter I gave you because I want to withdraw it. So my question was, why do you want to withdraw? And she says, no, we have studied the case docket and the reason advanced by the National Director of Public Prosecution is misplaced. We as Inspector General are not responsible for criminal investigation, but our investigation results into us producing reports to Parliament, Joint Standing Committee, not to take it to court. So this case, Mdluli must go and answer in court. So I gave her that letter. She withdrew it, and she wrote me a new letter to say, Mdluli must go and face his music in court. So I then said to General Drama at DPCI, send the case back to court. And I called Advocate Jiba, Nomgcobo Jiba was the acting national director at the time of prosecution, and I informed her, I said, your deputy withdrew this case in court. I want you to now attend to it because you are the head of the NPA. And she said she's in China at the time, I must send it back to Mkhwanazi. And then I told the disciplinary team that continue with the disciplinary case on Mdluli. But now, to my surprise, commissioners, that Advocate Mkhwanazi wrote a second letter. And he said, I'm the National Prosecution Authority, we working independently. I've taken a decision on this matter, therefore it's final. Closed. That's how that case of Jaram Mdluli died. By the signature of Advocate Mkhwanazi at the highest office of the NPA. So he killed that case like that. I'm glad now he's resurfacing against that corruption case. But it should have been dealt with then. But we had the players of Advocate Mkhwanazi in the highest office of the prosecution who decided, don't charge Mdluli. As I said, commissioners, when you do something that is bizarre, you make me to start asking questions. So I started asking questions as to why is this behavior? So as I was digging more, I started seeing a different picture, which maybe I might reflect to later. But the details of this thing I'm talking about is in the affidavit that I deposited at Zondo Commission. Feel free, is annexed, I think here, SC.
MK22, General.
Yeah, MK22. You'll be able to read it because it's got detail. It's quite a lengthy affidavit that I deposited about my experience at crime intelligence in 2011 to 2012 when I was acting, and how the secret fund account was misused by the players within crime intelligence that are still there today, that are fighting Khumalo today. They were there then, they are still there today. So there's never been any cleansing of crime intelligence, which is something the commission, I would want you to pay attention on it. But this issue of Mkhwanazi to suddenly shut down the criminal investigation, which was a concern to me, and on it, while we are continuing with the departmental matter, after having received this letter from advocate to say Mdluli must go to court, I received a phone call from the same Inspector General of Intelligence when I was driving home. She said I must come back and bring back that decision, the final decision she made about the criminal case, because she has risked her career with making that decision of saying Mdluli must be charged. She wants to withdraw that letter. So when I asked her, but why you want to withdraw the letter of a criminal case? You've read the case and you wrote to me and you say, Mdluli must go and face the music. Why do you want to withdraw it? And she said, no. It's my career now in line. So I need to withdraw that. I made a wrong decision. I should not have said Mdluli must be charged. Which means she charged the wrong people in the higher echelon of maybe within the police structures or in government that did not want Mdluli to be charged. And I refused to come back and withdraw the letter. And then I received a phone call from the Minister of Police, Nathi Mthethwa, commissioners. I went to his residence in Waterkloof. And when I arrived there, the Inspector General is sitting on one side of the table, Mr. Mthethwa is sitting on the other side of the table. The Minister says to me that I forced the Inspector General of Intelligence to write the letter that says, Mkhwanazi is wrong, this matter must go to court. She said, I forced her. Then I told her, I said, no, Minister, Advocate Khateb is an old woman. She's an advocate. How can I point a gun at her and force her to write a letter? Besides, when this letter was written in her office, and she actually is not the author of the letter. The author of the letter is Advocate J. Governor, who is an experienced prosecutor person who's working in that office. She's the one that drafted the letter. Not you, not the Inspector General of Intelligence. That means I didn't want to hear any of that. A symbol say, must stop prosecuting Mdluli, or must stop disciplinary case against Mdluli. Now, if we talk about political interference, that was the worst I've ever experienced. At that time, Commissioner, I come from the specialized operation. The only thing I know is to chase criminals. And I'm promoted to become the acting National Commissioner, and I'm confronted with this in front of me. And I said, but this is not what I signed for when I joined the police. This can't be right. The minister can't give me these instructions. Then I said to the minister, maybe you brought me into this position and you thought you were going to use me as a pawn because perhaps of my age or whatever, but you are wrong. I'm not going to do that. If you want me to stop charging Mdluli, you must put it in black and white. And then the minister said, no, Inspector General, you must give something in writing to the National Commission to stop this investigation. Inspector General said, no, come with me to my office so I can give you a letter.
In the light of Mr. Mkhwanazi's final decision, was there an ongoing investigation? It stopped there, Commissioner. I'm told that case started again afresh. So I don't know what's the status of it. I don't know who's handling it, but I've heard that it has started again. But that time, that's where it died. I'm asking in the light of you saying the minister said stop the investigation.
Well, it stopped because the case could not be enrolled in court because the second letter of Mkhwanazi that says stop. And after that, Advocate Bredenbach left NPA and became a parliamentarian. Maybe she will come here and tell you what happened because she's the one who was handling that docket. I don't know the details within NPA, what politics was happening there. But I believe that is one of maybe the things that might motivated her to leave NPA. I do not know. But I'm talking about the experience I had was that Mkhwanazi had written a first letter and referred to the Inspector General. Inspector General responded back and said, this is not my terrain. And Mkhwanazi wrote another letter and say, my final decision. And that was the end of that case. But coming back now to the stopping of a disciplinary part, because although they are saying this in court, but disciplinary is within my control, I'm not going to stop it, not unless they write to me and they say I must stop. Inspector General, remember I said, Commissioners, is the one who have an oversight role within the 6-rand fund account. So what she says to me in black and white, I must believe it because she's the one who's responsible for monitoring the abuse of this fund and whether it is used according to the rules set out within the intelligence space. So before I left with her to the house, I told the minister that I'm done acting. If you think me being the acting national commissioner, I must now bow down to the wrong illegal instructions that you're giving me. His words was, I didn't appoint you, it's the president that appointed you. So I told the president, I'll go and meet with him, but I'm done acting. So I went to the Inspector General's office, and I don't know whether it's my ancestors or whatever that helped me, because the letter that she had written me first, that cleared Mkhwanazi and said I must charge the CFO, which she later withdrew, she did not destroy the letter. She archived that letter. And she issued me another letter which contradicts that one. Remember, the first letter said Mkhwanazi is clean. Now that she's giving me another letter that talks about the case, she's saying, no, Mkhwanazi is not clean. He must go to court. So those two letters are contradicting each other. But instead of destroying the first letter, she didn't. She archived it, and she withdrew that from the archive. She gave it to me. So I took that and I walked, contacted the president, and I told the president, I'm done acting. Then the president said, no, I'm going to get someone. And I went to meet management. I told all the generals, I said, prepare your exit, because whoever is going to come is going to deal with you harshly. And indeed, that's what happened, commissioners. The JRPF was appointed, and I was made to go and sit at home in Montana for the whole year, which was fine.
I noticed that it's a good few minutes after 1.
Yes, absolutely.
I understood this to be an introduction to a point that what used to happen is still continuing. Between you and the general, you may want to discuss whether we want to go into this much detail.
In fact, no, Chair. But my assessment is actually he has delivered his message. His intention in terms of the statement was to indicate that whatever political interference he references now is not a new occurrence in his personal experience.
Yes.
The detail of what he speaks to is that entire submission at MK22. And which is the detail he has gone into. It's not entirely necessary for your purposes. You can read it at your leisure. And after lunch, I think, General, we would be ready to move on to the next point now. Or
yes.
Unless you'd still want to touch on, to finalize anything of significance and insofar as historical interference is concerned.
Basic commissioners, why I'm referencing to this as I attached on the annex is that the challenges that I highlighted in the media on the 6th of July, it was a history repeating itself to my assessment. And I said, it cannot be that I allowed the Mkhwanazi era, the Minister Mthethwa era, and under President Zuma to happen like that, that it's happening again now, and I keep quiet. I have a responsibility to bring this to the attention of the executive authority and to Parliament. And in failing that, I was left with no choice to tell the people that employed me, which are the citizens of South Africa, that what's going on in our system. So that's where my submission is, and I invite you to really look at that lengthy affidavit I deposited at the Zondo Commission.